Joining us right now, Larry Kudlow, CNBC senior contributor and host of the Larry Kudlow Show on WMAL every Saturday here at 7 p.m. And you made a little news on the Larry Kudlow Show. You had the one and only David Koch.
Wow.
I did.
David Koch, he of the evil Koch brothers, if you believe Harry Reid. And so apparently, Mr. Koch revealed to you that he's going to be quite involved in the 2016 presidential campaign. Talk to me.
Well, just let me say one additional thing. The real purpose of the interview was to talk about his extraordinary philanthropy. Okay, not really. He has given away $1.3 billion down through the years, principally to cancer, science, education, and culture. I mean, it's really a remarkable track record. And the Wednesday preceding the interview, he gave $150 million
Wow.
to the Sloan Kettering Memorial Cancer Hospital in New York City. I mean, it's really, truly unbelievable. And it's a side of him that I don't know if, people or listeners knew, but we really spent two-thirds of the interview on that. And I just, my hat's off to him because it's quite a remarkable record. On the politics, yes. I don't know if he said this before. I hadn't heard it, but he and Brother Charles would be willing to back several Republicans during the primary season, provided they support the kind of free market policies that they want. And that's interesting. I don't think I've heard that before.
It is interesting, and it's also going to make it. I mean, it's already somewhat bifurcated there. The GOP landscape, and you got George Pataki coming in this week as well. It makes it even more confusing, doesn't it, when you've got multiple candidates going after the very significant money with somebody like David Koch and his brother Charles?
Well, one part I like about that is that if you're right and people will lean to them, that means they're going to have to lean to free market policies, lower taxes and spending and regulating with no ifs, ands, buts about it. And I think that's great because that's the path to growth. That's the best way to create jobs. And, that's what the Kochs want. They are more interested right now in the policies than they are in the personalities. And I think that's a terrific way to go about it.
Did he suggest which of those candidates they like?
Because I knew you'd ask me that, Brian.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I asked him, and he said no. He wouldn't tell me. Now, there have been stories in recent months that they like Scott Walker. And at one point, I think David Koch said that he was for Scott Walker, but then his operation mailed back to reporters and said Walker is one of several. So there's no blanket endorsement yet.
Right,
there's no specific endorsement yet.
All right. Let me ask you about another thing. We have finally begun to see the drip, drip, drip of Clinton emails from the server. Remember, she had a server, private server, deleted a bunch of emails, turned over as the one that she thought were pertinent to the State Department, and now, because the judge said you have to, they're going to start handing these things out. We got our first dose. And really, not surprisingly, given the fact that she had 2 years to, sort of go through this stuff, the first batch doesn't reveal a great deal, except that she apparently, just several days after Benghazi, slept through her presidential daily briefing. She got up at 10:43 and said, I missed Dan when he came by. Could you have him come back later?
She missed that 3 a.m. phone call.
That's right. Well, Lanny Davis was on the show earlier, and he said that is not even a question worthy of asking.
Well, maybe not. I don't know. It's freedom of the press. I wish I knew more. I can't help you on that. There have been an awful lot of questions about Hillary's health, but those questions came afterwards when she fell. I don't know if you remember, she fell and hit her head.
Yeah.
Right.
And some writers and other journalists have suggested that she actually had a stroke and that they've hidden that from public view as best they can. I have no comment on that one way or the other. I'm merely reporting what some others have reported, but that would have come well after the incident you're talking about,
right.
So I can't explain it. Just overslept. You guys said, well, you never oversleep.
We're not allowed to.
You're never oversleep.
When you have a job as important as morning radio, you got to be there on time and you got to wake up early. But apparently when you're in Secretary of State, days after a terrorist attack on a State Department facility, you got to sleep in sometimes. Hey, Larry.
I never really thought of Mrs. Clinton as a party animal. But
you never know.
This could be another side of her.
Well, she is married to Bill. Larry.
They don't spend much time together, from what I get.
Let me perilously.
You are making me out to sound like
our fault. Exactly.
Yeah, it's always our fault.
Hey, Larry, we are with you in terms of our inclination to being open to the idea of free trade. Free trade is a good thing. It helps the market. It helps our country. It helps a country that we're trading with, generally speaking. It's a good thing. And the president got his fast-track trade agenda pushed through the Senate and the House by Republicans mostly. Democrats, many of them sort of bucked his will there. But one thing does disturb me about this, and I wonder if you could make me feel better about it. Why don't we know the details of this deal? Why is it kept secret? If it's a good deal, and I believe it would be a good deal for free trade, we should know about it. We should be able to sell this idea. Republicans should be able to say, hey, this is why it's a great idea. Why all the secrecy?
Well, there's a process here, and I was never directly involved with it, but I was peripherally involved with it when I worked in the budget office. As I understand it, you kind of have to do this to button it down. Then you take it back to Congress and open it up with all the details. Now, that's my understanding, and that may be an unsatisfactory answer to a lot of people who want to know and who do not trust President Obama.
Well, that's the problem. There's a lot of mistrust with this president, so to sort of give him this blank check and then cash it later, well, it's too late when they bring it back to Congress.
No, that's not true. When you say cash it later, the Congress will get at least 2 more bites out of the apple, and that's very important. And that's really at the heart of this thing. As Paul Ryan wrote, he did an editorial with somebody a couple of weeks ago. So you're giving him permission. You're voting on fast track to complete that process, and yes, there are lots of deals, and yes, we don't know everything. Agreed. But then they have to come back and show everything to Congress, everything. And so the committee members, presumably the Ways and Means, but also the other committees, get to look at everything, including, side deals and appendixes and whatever. And then they get to vote on that. And then, even later on, as the deal is implemented, anytime the authorizing committees want to, they can investigate, call hearings, and clarify. So there's really a couple more bites out of the apple for Congress. And I think this one, I think Ryan basically argued this is the best we've ever done. Not just 2 hits, but you're going to get a third vote later. So I hear you, but I'm not that worried about it. And I think it's going to pass the House.
Yeah,
it sure looks like it.
Yeah, and so
I just think it's good for growth. I know there's an element of the Republican Party and there's an element of the Democratic Party that don't like this, that say it costs jobs. Let me just say, if you look at the facts, the actual facts, you will see how much free trade agreements, going back to Reagan, who started it with Canada, and then Clinton went into Mexico, and we've had lots in between. We just had one with Colombia and some others. These things help consumers get the best quality goods at the lowest possible prices. They help producers open up markets all over the world. And when you open up a market, you have to create jobs at home to service it. A lot of times it means, you might buy goods overseas, but you assemble it at home. There's a million things that are going on here that boost the economy. Free trade is a tariff cut, which is a tax cut, which is good for growth. And this business about costing jobs is unproven. It's just unproven.
Well, we're going to have to leave it right there, Larry.
All right.
But thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
And
I will never oversleep this show.
Yes,
thank you. We appreciate it.
Unless you're out partying with Hillary. And we understand. And that's a fine excuse. Thank you, Larry. Thank you.